What is going on, everybody? Today we got a mock draft by Todd Mcshays. We're gonna break this one down because this one's definitely interesting, and there's some players on this mock draft that I kind of don't disagree with. But again, this one's interesting because Todd Mcshays is one of the leaders within the mock draft community. He is one of the guys that has a lot of push. Him, Mel Kiper work side to side. Have a lot of inside information. That too. Keep in mind the Senior Bowl is over and the Super Bowl is over, so this one's definitely gonna start shaping out some of the mock drafts that we kind of see around the internet. Let's go ahead and jump right into this one. First and foremost, Todd Mcshays thinks that the Indianapolis Colts are going to trade up with the Chicago Bears, and he believes they're going to trade up and take Bryce Young. For me, if I'm the Chicago Bears, I am moving that pick because the value of that pick is just too much. You're likely going to get another first-round pick, at least, at the very least. And let's just say you swap first-round picks with the Colts, and you get next year's first-round picks from the Colts. To me, that's perfect. That's more than enough, especially considering that even then, you're still going to have a shot at either Will Anderson or Jalen Carter. Now, I think most people prefer Jalen Carter. At least most people, I should say I prefer Jalen Carter. I shouldn't speak for other people, but I think a lot of people within the draft community do value defense tackles over defensive ends, especially since we have a lot of DNs that come out every year that are great pass rushers. And having great pass rushing D tackles doesn't happen that often. Usually we get like one a year, right? We got Christian Barmore 2 years ago. Before that, I think Quentin Williams was like that solid pass rusher. And then before him, I don't even know who it was before him, right? But Bryce Young goes number one. Love it for the Colts. I think this is the way forward for the Colts. You got to get a rookie quarterback. The veteran options obviously haven't worked out. And I think trading up for the Colts makes the most sense, especially if you want Young. I think he's still number one quarterback on most people's draft boards. Although some people have stated that the Colts may prefer Will Levis. I believe it was Dan Bolger, I think is his name, from The Athletic. I believe he was saying that some teams do have Will Levis as their number one quarterback. So that one's going to be kind of interesting to see how that kind of shapes out. But Bryce Young goes number one here, which leaves the Texans at number two. Maybe getting C.J. Stroud. Again, we don't know how the Texans feel about the quarterbacks, but it's interesting that C.J. Stroud goes two as opposed to Will Levis. We've seen Will Levis be number one or number two a lot, more often than C.J. Stroud. Like, C.J. Stroud's almost never the number one quarterback on these mock drafts. So C.J. Stroud goes number two to the Houston Texans. I think this makes a lot of sense for a team like the Texans that really need a quarterback. Let's just be honest, right? Last year, you get some good young offensive players. You have a good O-line, in my opinion, or at least you're kind of building to having a good O-line. So it'll be interesting what the Texans end up doing as they kind of move forward. For me, I think C.J. Stroud makes a lot of sense. The Arizona Cardinals at number three will then take Will Anderson. If I'm the Cardinals and you have the choice of any player on the board, you take Jalen Carter. I don't know why anyone thinks Will Anderson is the better player. Like, just pure player, right? Not even positional value. I think Jalen Carter is a better pure player than is Will Anderson. And then you get into the positional value and the fact that you get 10 DNs that come out every year that'll have long careers in the NFL, but you get D tackles once every year, if that are actual good D tackles that can pass rush. So obviously Mcshays draft, he has Will Anderson go 3, Jalen Carter go 4. I think the top 4 picks are pretty much set in stone, right? We're gonna get Anderson and Carter for sure in the top 4, and then we're gonna get 2 quarterbacks. It's just a matter of which 2 quarterbacks. Honestly, most people agree Bryce Young will be one of the 2 quarterbacks, and then from there it's really just Will Levis or C.J. Stroud. But the top 4 are set in stone. Number 5 is when things kind of start taking a turn a little bit, right? The Seattle Seahawks take Tyree Wilson. I love the pick here because you have guys like Uchenna Nwosu. You have guys like Poona Ford, although he is technically going to be a free agent this year. Then you got Shelby Harris and Al Woods. You got some massive bodies. Uchenna obviously isn't massive, but he's a really good pass rusher. And then you bring in Tyree Wilson, who kind of fits that mold of the Seahawks. You know, if the Seahawks did go quarterback at 5, I wouldn't be opposed to it. I'd actually agree with it. C.J. Stroud, Will Levis, Anthony Richardson. And I say that because the Seahawks are not that far away from being a Super Bowl contender. In my opinion, the Seahawks are right there to compete for a Super Bowl. They just need a hit on the quarterback. You know, you put Patrick Mahomes on the Seahawks, they're arguably a top 2 team based off the roster that they already have there. You can put a guy even like Justin Herbert or Lamar Jackson, and they're a Super Bowl contending team. To me, the Seahawks, I like the Tyree Wilson pick, but don't be surprised if they end up taking a quarterback with pick 5. Just something to kind of think about. The Detroit Lions take Myles Murphy. Murphy obviously is very high on the mock drafts. He's not as high for me, but Todd Mcshays mock draft, I can dig it. They can take Myles Murphy for the Lions. Again, I personally wouldn't, but it is what it is. The Raiders get Will Levis, man. This pick right here fires me up. First and foremost, if you guys came over from my other video on my main channel, you guys know we kind of talked about this a little bit, but Will Levis is a guy that I really focused in on over the last 2 days, and he's a guy that I would absolutely take with pick 7. Will Levis, for me at least, is one of those guys that has everything you want in a quarterback. Will Levis is one of those guys that can make every throw accurately. He's a pocket passer, can make every throw. Ball placement's top tier. The biggest question mark for Levis is going to be his ability to create plays. And that's the one thing where we're not 100% sure what type of quarterback he'll be. Can he make every play? Right? Pressure comes on him from the right tackle. Can he step through the pocket, take off running to his right, and throw it downfield, throw it on the run? Can he do it? That's going to be the question. If he is able to do that, you may have the next Justin Herbert. You may have the next Joe Burrow, right? Because he has the arm talent. Love this pick for the Raiders. Obviously, you get your quarterback of the future with pick 7. From there, you just build the rest of the roster out. Free agency will obviously have a big impact for the Raiders. The Falcons take Peter Skronsky. I can see how they can take Peter Skronsky. I definitely get how you may want to replace one of your tackles. And that too, when you do replace one of your tackles, if it doesn't work out, you move him to guard, right? The Falcons can definitely use some help on the offensive line. Caleb McGarry is a free agent, so that one's going to be interesting to see if they end up bringing him back. I think they probably won't. I think they'll just replace him right away with a rookie tackle. I definitely see the Falcons not taking a quarterback. So I think tackle makes a lot of sense for the Falcons. Some people have a DN going to the Falcons. I don't think that makes as much sense, especially since they got Arnold Ebiketie last year in the 2nd round. Let him develop and let him be a full-time starter this year, and I think your defensive ends are set for the future, right? Good D-line there. The Panthers take Anthony Richardson. I love the pick here. Some people are going to say, isn't that too high for Richardson? I'm going to say no. I think Anthony Richardson is a top 10 pick. I think he's one of those guys that you plug and play and let him develop. You may not see instant success year 1 or year 2, but by year 3, he has the most upside in this class, in my opinion. 6'4", can run and move and make people miss in the open space that you don't see with a lot of people. This guy's going to be special at the next level, man. He's basically a running back, right? And I'm not saying he is a running back and he can't pass. Obviously he can, but when he runs with the football, he's like Saquon Barkley out there, right? Being in a one-on-one situation, he'll make a guy miss. Like, that is how talented this guy is. Very similar to Lamar Jackson. You know, if someone wants to give up 3 first-round picks for Lamar Jackson, go for it. Or you can just get Anthony Richardson, right? Trade up and get Anthony Richardson, because I think that gives you a cheap contract. Obviously, he has to develop to become Lamar, but I think he has those similarities to eventually get there. The Eagles take Brian Bresee, or Breezy, I think is how you say Brian Breezy or Bresee. I'm going to get that one right, but the Eagles take him at number 10, which is kind of crazy because we've been seeing Brian Breezy fall, right? We've seen him fall in the latest mock drafts down to the late first, sometimes in the 2nd round. A lot of people don't like him as much. People are starting to put Siaki Ika. Some people are putting Kalijah Kancey much higher on their draft board. I still like the Clemson defensive tackle. And obviously the Eagles are about to pay Jalen Hurts $50 million, which means they're not going to be able to play guys like Javon Hargrave or Fletcher Cox. Hargrave probably has his final contract of his career, right? His final long-term contract, right? 3 to 4 year deal, $10 to $12 million per year. I don't think the Eagles are going to pay that. The Eagles have a lot of other guys under contract, plus Hurst is about to get paid. The Eagles roster is about to start downgrading. It's about to start coming downwards. The roster, right? Doesn't mean they're going to get worse as a team, but for me, I can take the Clemson D tackle there. I can definitely see how that would make sense. The Titans take Paris Johnson. Definitely can see that as well. Although we're seeing Broderick Jones go ahead of Paris Johnson. Personally, after Peter Skronsky, I'm taking Darnell Wright, but you guys know that's just me. That's how I've been feeling about it. But Paris Johnson's a good pick as well. I can definitely see how he goes 11th. The Ohio State tackle comes in day one, starts at left tackle for the Titans. From there, he just develops. Obviously, this could be the Titans rebuild, right? This or retool, whatever you want to use, right? Because you get Paris Johnson. You know, Ryan Tannehill is going to have a second-year right tackle and a rookie left tackle, and that too, those guys are going to allow a lot of sacks in this next year. Maybe not as much Nicholas Petit. I think he's a good football player, but it's going to be an interesting year for sure, in my opinion. Paris Johnson, number 11, number 12, Quentin Johnston. That's an interesting pick. Todd McShay obviously has Johnson going 12th to the Texans. I do like it if they get C.J. Stroud with number 2 to come back and take a wide receiver. Remember, they drafted John Mechie last year in the second round, and he didn't play all of last year. I don't think he played at all last year. So Mechie's going to come back this year. Some people had him as a first-round prospect last year, right? And he's going to come back. Johnston, C.J. Stroud, a good offensive line. That too, their defense was pretty good last year as well. You got the rookie safety that really showed up big, right? Big time safety. I like the pick for the Texans. That'll be interesting. We'll see if that actually is the receiver they take, right? Obviously, Jordan Addison's much smaller, which would be similar to a guy like John Mechie. And then Jackson Smith-Njigba, kind of interesting. I like the Johnston size with Mechie and Cooks. Obviously, it'll be interesting to see if they do it. Then you got the Jets, and the Jets take Broderick Jones. I love Broderick Jones for the Jets. I love a tackle specifically for the Jets because, they talk about Breece Hall, they talk about Garrett Wilson, they talk about Sauce Gardner, but what they don't tell you is how bad the Jets' offensive line is. And it's not bad in the general sense. Like Elijah Vera Tucker's arguably one of the best offensive linemen, interior offensive lineman, right? Arguably one of the best guards in the NFL. But the Jets just don't have the tackles. And for me, I think Broderick Jones makes a lot of sense. At least he gives you the option of having a tackle, a long-term solution at tackle, especially if you're going to go out and get a quarterback like Derek Carr or Aaron Rodgers or Jimmy Garoppolo. At least this gives you that option to have that long-term tackle. Even then, I don't know if Broderick Jones fixes things for them, but makes sense. Todd McShay obviously has the Jets taking Broderick Jones. Then you got the New England Patriots taking Joey Porter Jr., which is the first cornerback off the draft board. And that's kind of interesting that Todd McShay has Joey Porter as the number 1 cornerback. I definitely do like the Penn State corner. I think Penn State has produced a lot of good talents recently. I think Joey Porter's going to be one of the good ones as well. So that one right there makes a lot of sense. Obviously, Jonathan Jones is a free agent for the Patriots. But again, do keep in mind, the Patriots do produce a lot of good corners. Marcus Jones, rookie last year, phenomenal football player. He's arguably the next Deion Sanders, right? Or not exactly like Deion Sanders, right? But the guy takes he plays offense and takes screen passes to the house. He takes kick returns and punt returns to the house. He has pick sixes, all as a rookie. It's crazy that Marcus Jones wasn't a guy that was talked more about last year, right? But Joey Porter, I love the pick. It allows the Patriots to continue to build. Again, if it was up to me, maybe they target a receiver here. I don't know. Either way, like the pick. The Packers take Michael Mayer, tight end out of Notre Dame. It makes sense with Robert Tonyan about to become a free agent. A lot of people are saying he's the number 1 tight end. People are saying that there's a chance that we get like 2 or 3 tight ends go in the first round this year. And if it's not in the first, there's a chance that we'll get like 5 to go in the top 64, which is the first 2 rounds. Michael Mayer obviously goes to the Packers. Can definitely dig that one. The Commanders take corner 2. Devin Witherspoon, which is interesting that he falls so much. To fall to pick 16 is going to be interesting because some people think that Witherspoon is a top 6 pick. Some people are saying Witherspoon may go before Jalen Carter, assuming Will Anderson's the first player taken, right, to the Cardinals. Some people are saying the Seahawks may end up picking Witherspoon. Some people are saying the Lions may end up taking Witherspoon, right? So it's going to be interesting to see what ends up happening. But at 16, the Commanders get Witherspoon, which is, I think, you get 3 corners basically going almost back to back to back. And you get 4 corners. So the Steelers take a corner. So the Patriots take corner 1 at 14. The Commanders take corner 2 with Witherspoon. The Steelers take cornerback 3 with Christian Gonzalez. And then right after that, cornerback 4 to the Detroit Lions. You get a lot of cornerbacks. 4 corners in 5 picks. That's interesting. It's definitely happened in the past where we've seen like a run on a certain position. It happened with wide receivers last year. I think we saw 3 wide receivers go back to back to back. I love Christian Gonzalez. He is my number 2 corner at the moment, right after Devin Witherspoon, and Joey Porter's right there as well. And there's not a big difference for me between those 3 guys. I think they're all pretty similar. Obviously, they're different types of players, but they're similar in terms of their impact that I think they'll have year 1. Keely Ringo ends up going 18th to the Lions. He's not a player that I like a whole lot in the first round. I think Georgia players, especially secondary players, you got to be a little weary about those guys because of the fact that the guys up front were so great. It benefited the guys in the secondary a lot, right? And that's kind of been the case over the last 2 to 3 years. But you see Ringo goes to the Lions at 18. I do think the Lions need to get a cornerback for sure. They take Myles Murphy with their first pick, which is a 6th overall pick, and then they take Ringo with the 18th pick. I do like them taking 2 defensive prospects with both picks. Now, if it's possible for the Lions to trade one of their first-round picks this year to a team for their first-round pick next year, I think they should do it. If it's possible for the Lions to trade pick 6 to the Commanders or to the Jets for their first-round pick this year plus next year's first-round pick, I think they should do it because this draft is not that good, right? There's about 12 guys that are really first-round prospects and a lot of guys that are kind of project players, right, in this class. So either way, I do like the pick that Todd McShay has. I love the pick for the Buccaneers here, Lucas Van Ness. One of my favorite players. In fact, I did a defensive end where I ranked the top 12 guys. He was number 4 on my list. Lucas Van Ness is versatile. He can stand up and be an outside rusher, or you can put his hand into the dirt and be a 5-tech, 4-eye, play the inside a little bit. Maybe not, the 2-eye or the 3-tech, but he can definitely play outside of that. Versatile football player. I think Lucas Van Ness is going to be a really, really, really good football player. You get Shaquille Barrett some help, right? Get that defense man on the opposite side of him. I think this would be the perfect pick for the Buccaneers, who are kind of looking to retool post Tom Brady. And I think the first thing you should do is build the roster, right? You'll find the quarterback in free agency, or you'll find a quarterback in Kyle Trask, right? But what you got to do is got to get some help. You got to build the defense back up into what it was the first year Tom Brady was there, right? A top 5 defense. Build it back to where it once was and have success. Love the pick with Lucas Van Ness. The Seahawks take Brian Branch. Best value pick, if you get Brian Branch with pick 20, I think you're going to have a lot of success. I do think Brian Branch is one of those guys that's going to have a tremendous amount of success, right? They take Tyree Wilson with pick 5, so they come back around with pick 20, and they take Brian Branch. I love that pick for the Seahawks because I think Branch has a lot of upside. He's a guy that can really play in the slot. He can play out wide if you need to on a tight end. He can come down as a linebacker, but that doesn't mean he can't play deep, right? He isn't Jamal Adams. He isn't Jonathan Abram. He isn't Derwin James. Or I should say he's probably closer to Derwin James, although he's quicker than Derwin James. He's better in coverage. So Brian Branch, great instincts. Love the pick for the Seattle Seahawks. Again, the Seahawks are going to be Super Bowl bound, man. I'm telling you guys right now, they just need to hit on that quarterback. They have a good roster in place. Great offensive line, in my opinion, especially with the upside, with the 2 young tackles. I honestly think Abraham Lucas is better right now than the left tackle. They took the left tackle with pick 9. They took Lucas with 3rd-round pick. They were both rookies last year, and I think Lucas is better, right, than Charles Cross. Obviously, that's right now. Obviously, we'll see what ends up happening in the future. But a great offensive line, good weapons, right, for a quarterback to come in, right? Great tight end, 2 great wide receivers. Just build the defense, man. And this is a Super Bowl team, man. Just got to get that quarterback. Imagine if the Seahawks get like Derek Carr or Aaron Rodgers, man. That would be interesting. The Chargers take the fifth cornerback off the board in Cam Smith. Smith's a guy that's getting more hype recently. He's lengthy, he's tall, has good size. The Chargers can use secondary help, right? Bryce Callahan becomes a free agent. J.C. Jackson obviously had the right knee injury last year. This benefits them a lot. Corner makes sense. The Ravens take Bijan Robinson. I don't know. It's definitely a Ravens pick to take a running back, but you already have a good young running back, in my opinion, in J.K. Dobbins. Obviously, I understand Dobbins has some health issues, but he was really good when he came back. Now, it could make sense to have two running backs, two guys that can kind of come in and out, and you know, you don't have to always just have these guys line up in the backfield. You can put Robinson into the slot and let him play slot a little bit, right? Take 5 snaps in the slot. Put J.K. Dobbins in the slot. 5 snaps there, right? They don't always have to be the pure running back. I definitely like the pick because I think Robinson is probably the third best player, maybe the second best player in this class. Obviously, because of positional value, he's going to end up falling. The Vikings pick 23, Jordan Addison. Kind of low for Addison. A lot of people have him mocked in the top like 14 picks. But I can definitely see how the Vikings need more of that quick slot player doing all the underneath stuff. Adam Thielen's 33 years old. They got to look to replace him. Justin Jefferson's going to get a massive, $32-33 million contract. So you got to look to get some help at receiver through the draft. Right, you got to get 5 years of production, potential with the 5th year option out of a receiver. With Justin Jefferson, $30+ million. Jordan Addison, I think, is a good 1-2, being the number 2 to Justin Jefferson. I love the pick for the Vikings right there. Obviously, they also traded for the tight end from the Lions, T.J. Hawkinson, so they still have him. I'm not sure if they're going to pay him. All right, we'll see what ends up happening in the next year or so. It's going to be interesting. Very, very interesting. I love Jordan Addison. I think he'd be a great fit for the Vikings. I think the Vikings do need to figure out the quarterback situation. I don't think Kirk Cousins allows you to win. I don't see it. We'll never see how paying a guy like Cousins $40 million is good to win. Now, it sells tickets, right? And I know that's what the Vikings ownership loves, right? They love to sell tickets. And Kirk Cousins does that, but you're going to waste a lot of your superstar players, Christian Darrisaw, Justin Jefferson. You're going to waste a lot of their years with a guy like Kirk Cousins. I suggest the Vikings go out and go get their next quarterback. Go all in on Aaron Rodgers. Maybe you draft a guy in the first round in Hendon Hooker and see if you can develop him, right? Obviously, they took a quarterback, I believe it was 2 years ago in the second round. They ended up releasing him. I think he ended up going to the Cowboys, but you got to figure it out, right? Then comes the Jacksonville Jaguars with pick 24. I love this pick. I think the one thing the Jags need right now is to build their weapons. Trevor Lawrence is going to be a top 7 quarterback. He's proven that this past year. He has all the tools to be an elite quarterback. He's going to take the year 3 step. They have weapons already, right? But they don't have the out-of-control guys there, right? Christian Kirk's a good football player. Evan Ingram's a free agent. We'll see if he comes back. And he's a good football player. But this year they'll have Calvin Ridley, and I think Calvin Ridley takes him to the next level. Besides Calvin Ridley, Jackson Smith and the jig, but like you throw all of those guys out there on the field, and you're gonna have issues stopping this Jags team. They already made the playoffs, and they won a playoff game. But this is a team that could have so much more success. All right, this is a team that I think has all the potential to be a really, really, really good football team. I like this, man. I think the Jags have a lot of upside. Again, you gotta get those weapons, right? Got to get those weapons. I think they have a pretty good offensive line, although they'll have to re-sign and cut some guys soon here and make some more decisions. The Giants pick 25, take Zay Flowers. Flowers has been really, really good, and I think the Giants are also right there where they are going to have to pay a quarterback, but you got to build him some weapons. Wan'Dale Robinson, they took him last year. Obviously didn't really work out as much. Upside is there for sure. And now you take Zay Flowers. Kadarius Toney obviously didn't work out. You got rid of him. But I think there's a lot of upside for the Giants here, right? With Zay Flowers, get those weapons. Saquon Barkley may walk. We'll see what ends up happening. I would probably let him walk unless he signs a cheaper contract. Maybe you draft the running back with pick 25, right? Jamari Gibbs is still on the board, or maybe you come around in the second round and you take a guy like Spears out of Tulane. That's one's gonna be kind of interesting. The Dallas Cowboys take Osiris Torrance. I don't like this, man. I really, really, really don't like this. Although I love Osiris Torrance, I don't like taking a guard with the 26th overall pick when you can easily take a running back, you could take a receiver, you could take a tight end. You can take so much to help your offense. The Cowboys have a top 5 offensive line. I don't know why you wouldn't just re-sign Connor McGovern. I don't see why you wouldn't just go that direction. But I can understand why you would take Osiris Torrance. You get 5 years of an impactful offensive lineman. Plus, imagine having Torrance at left guard and Tyler Smith at left tackle. They would be crushing people, man. So I can see how they take him. The Bills take Jamari Gibbs out of Alabama. Most people have him as their number 2 running back. With Devin Singletary, who is likely gone, I think this makes sense. And I think the Bills need to focus on running the football much, much more. Or they need to go get another wide receiver. That could be the 1-2, the number 2 to Stephon Diggs. Obviously, we'll see what ends up happening, but I definitely like the pick of building more through the offensive guys, right? Definitely like that. The Bengals have Dalton Kincaid out of Utah, number 2 tight end right now. I could see that being a good pick for the Bengals, although I think the Bengals should focus wide receivers. Personally, you're going to lose T. Higgins, right? Even if T. Higgins takes a team-friendly contract, if you do that and then Joe Burrow gets paid and then Jamar Chase gets paid, you're going to lose Tyler Boyd. You're going to lose Hayden Hurst. You already paid a right tackle. You may lose your left tackle, right? So the Bengals really have to pick and choose. And for me, it's so hard because you got to replace your defensive players and continue to have a good defense, but you got to pick and choose. And I think you can have one really good wide receiver, and then you just got to replace through the draft. Maybe sign a tight end in Hayden Hurst and have him continue to be the productive player that he can be. Maybe you utilize him more. Gonna be interesting. I can definitely see them taking a tight end as well. I like the Dalton Kincaid pick. I think out of Utah, he's gonna be a good football player. Gonna be interesting. Obviously, we'll see what ends up happening. The New Orleans Saints take Keon White, defensive end out of Georgia Tech. Definitely a New Orleans Saints type of pick. They like the bigger defensive ends, the powerful guys, and Keon White is that. Pick 29, can definitely see that happening. These last 2 picks, I disagree with both of them. The Philadelphia Eagles take Anton Harrison, and the Kansas City Chiefs take Jalen Duncan. Here's the thing with Anton Harrison. Lane Johnson and Jordan Mailata don't need to be replaced. They don't. They're good. They're really, really good. Jordan Mailata is here for another 7 years at least, right? Lane Johnson isn't retiring tomorrow, right? Lane Johnson will play another 2 to 3 years as well. Yeah, these guys are getting up there in age, and I know the Eagles love to draft offensive linemen early. But the thing I disagree with is Anton Harrison going with pick 30 is not worth it. And Harrison, I think, is a good football player. But with pick 30, I just don't see that. Same with Jalen Duncan. Pick 31 in the first round for Jalen Duncan. Duncan's like a 3rd round prospect, in my opinion, in any other draft. But the Chiefs are going to take him with pick 31 to replace Orlando Brown Jr. I don't know. That too, Darnell Wright is still on the board. I don't know what issue these guys have with Darnell Wright. Darnell Wright is a day 1 starter, and he's a plug-and-play, long-term solution at tackle. Yeah, Anton Harrison, Jalen Duncan, Paris Johnson, Broderick Jones, they may have more upside because they're quicker, they're faster, they're maybe more explosive, but their technique is not better, right? And sometimes guys like DeJuan Jones and guys like Darnell Wright will have much longer, better careers because of their technique. An interesting story about 5 years ago, when I literally first started getting into making YouTube videos, one of the first videos I ever made, and I don't think the video's out there anymore, I believe it's been removed, but one of the first videos I ever made was Orlando Brown Jr. While he was in college. I believe he played for Ohio State. It may have been Georgia. He played for one of those schools. I can't remember on the top of my head, but I believe it was Ohio State. I believe I believe it was Roquan Smith that came out of Georgia that year. Because I did his tape as well, and I remember they were playing one another. Anyways, I was doing a film breakdown on Orlando Brown, and I said this guy has crazy technique. Crazy technique. This guy's technique is through the roof. He's going to play a long time in the NFL. He's going to be a top 10 tackle. And he's been that for a lot of years, right, of his career so far. I believe he was initially with the Ravens, came over to the Chiefs. I think he was a third-round pick. And it's crazy because he had a terrible combine. And because of his combine, he ended up slipping. But he had first-round potential. He had the potential to be the best tackle in the class. And I think he's been that out of his class. He's been one of the top 2 or 3 tackles. But again, DeJuan Jones kind of reminds me of Orlando Brown a little bit, right? Big guy, maybe not the fastest, but his technique's through the roof. Darnell Wright kind of reminds me of that guy with great technique, but he may not have the most upside. And again, for me, I always look at it like you gotta weigh the two things. Jalen Duncan's a prospect that he has long-term developmental upside, but to me, I don't know if that's going to be worth the 31 overall pick. I think Anton Harrison's much better than Jalen Duncan. Anton Harrison may be worth the first-round pick, but he's not better than Darnell Wright. I disagree with both of these picks, but there you guys have it, the Todd Mcshays draft. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Who are some of your guys' guys, some of your guys that you guys want in this draft? Let me know who it is so we can do some film breakdowns for the other YouTube channel. Thumbs up, subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time with another video.